Sears decided Craftsman was worth more sold than protected. In January 2017, they turned a brand workers had trusted for 90 years into a $525 million line item on a bankruptcy balance sheet. The red and black logo is still at Lowe's. The factory that was supposed to bring it back never produced a wrench, and the thing people actually trusted about Craftsman is a lot harder to find than it used to be. But 90 years before that sale, Craftsman was barely a name on a piece of paper. Sears registered the trademark in 1927. A hardware buyer acquired the name for what company lore describes as $500. It looked like a small transaction at the time. Sears never manufactured a single Craftsman tool. Every wrench, socket, and screwdriver came out of independent American factories working under contract. Western Forge in Colorado Springs produced screwdrivers, pliers, and adjustable wrenches. A forge operation in Springfield, Massachusetts turned out the hand wrenches. Sears set the quality standards, stamped their name on the finished steel, and backed all of it with a warranty that had no conditions worth memorizing. If a Craftsman tool failed, you walked it into any Sears store and walked out with a new one. You kept the purchase date in your head if you could remember it, but the person at the warranty counter did not ask. They handed you a replacement. That was the system, understood by enough people across enough generations that it stopped feeling like a policy and started feeling like a fact about the world. That reputation took 9 decades to build. It took one man about 13 years to dismantle it. The Sears catalog reinforced that promise at scale. Thick enough to use as a doorstop, it landed in American mailboxes for decades, and the tool section read like a written commitment. Every socket size, every combination wrench, every Craftsman screwdriver set photographed in red and black packaging. For families who maintained their own vehicles and could not afford tools that failed without recourse, the catalog was a reference document as much as a shopping guide. Then in 2005, a hedge fund manager named Eddie Lampert completed the merger of Kmart and Sears into a new entity called Sears Holdings Corporation. He controlled roughly 40% of the combined company through his hedge fund. What followed was not a retail turnaround. 2 years later, Craftsman hit its highest trust score in its history. A trust survey published in 2007 measured more than 1,000 brands across 39 consumer categories. Craftsman scored highest in the trust metric. Not the most trusted tools, the most trusted brand of any kind in that study. That number did not come from advertising. Craftsman ran almost no national campaigns of its own. It had never built a standalone store, never cultivated a direct relationship with customers outside of Sears. What produced that trust score was 9 decades of Sears keeping its word at the warranty counter. The trust people placed in Craftsman was the trust they placed in Sears. The two had the same address. And this is the part where the money started moving in one direction. Lampert's approach, as described by analysts and former executives, treated the stores as liabilities sitting on top of valuable real estate. In 2015, he created Seritage Growth Properties, a real estate investment trust, and sold 235 store locations into it for $2.7 billion. Sears then paid rent on the same buildings it had just sold. Seritage released that recaptured space to outside tenants at roughly 4 times what Sears was paying. The gap went to Seritage. Lampert held a significant stake. Capital that should have maintained the stores was leaving to cover rent on buildings Sears used to own outright. Former employees described ceiling leaks going unrepaired for months, broken escalators left as they were. The Craftsman tool aisle that had given generations of Americans a reason to walk through the front door grew thinner every season, and nobody at the top was sending more product to fill it. But here is the detail that everyone missed at the time. Craftsman had no way to survive this independent of Sears. It owned no factory and operated no stores of its own. Every customer interaction ran through Sears. Pull the Sears name off the shelf and there was no standalone Craftsman brand left to find. If this kind of breakdown is what you come here for, subscribe now. This channel covers brands that people trusted and what happened when the decision stopped being about the product. There is a new video already in production. In January 2017, Sears announced the Craftsman brand would go to Stanley Black & Decker for a deal valued at $900 million. The upfront cash at closing was $525 million. The proceeds went toward debt and pension obligations. Less than 2 years later, Sears Holdings filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. A quality perception study from that same year tracked consumer attitudes across major tool brands. Craftsman's score had dropped 6 points since 2014, falling from 61 to 55. It was the steepest decline in the category. Purchase consideration fell from 57% to 47% across those same 3 years. People had not stopped recognizing the name. They had started doubting what the name was worth. And if that were the only problem, this would be a shorter story. The sale severed Craftsman from the manufacturing network that had produced it for 5 decades. Western Forge in Colorado Springs had been making Craftsman screwdrivers, pliers, and adjustable wrenches since 1965. 54 years of production. When the new owner chose not to renew the contract, the CEO of Western Forge's parent company stated publicly that the business could not survive without it. In February 2020, the plant closed. 164 workers lost their jobs. A factory that had spent more than half a century producing tools that millions of Americans trusted was gone because the brand's new owner no longer needed what it made. You would think someone would have said something. Nobody did. Stanley Black & Decker announced a $90 million manufacturing facility in Fort Worth, Texas. 425,000 square feet, automated forging equipment, wrench, ratchet, and socket production returning to American soil. Workers were hired. The press releases used the phrase, "Made in USA." That was only round one. The automated forging system never worked at scale. Equipment arrived late. Machinery ran into problems that could not be resolved on the projected timeline. The plant produced some sockets. It never produced a wrench or a ratchet at any commercial volume. In March 2023, Stanley Black & Decker closed the Fort Worth facility. The workers were let go. In 2025, the company discontinued the V-Series hand tool line, the best-reviewed product Craftsman had released under new ownership, and replaced it with cheaper alternatives. That decision went largely unannounced. So, where does that leave the brand today? The red and black packaging is still on shelves at Lowe's. The tools inside are made in China, India, and Taiwan. The warranty still exists. Honoring it now involves a phone call and a process that no one who used the original system would recognize as the same thing. Craftsman is a functional brand today. At the right price point, it is a reasonable purchase for a homeowner who does not need more than that. Reasonable was never what the name was built on. It was built on the kind of certainty that comes from a store that has been in the same corner of your town long enough to feel permanent, and a warranty counter that replaced the tool without making you explain yourself. Sears made that possible. When Lampert decided the buildings were worth more than the stores inside them, he did not just damage a retailer. He removed the one thing that had made the name stamped on the handle mean something. Pick up a Craftsman wrench at Lowe's today. Turn it over. The country of origin is not Colorado Springs.